we are back. Welcome to my preview and predictions for Premier League Game Week 31. But before we get into today's video, I have to give my biggest thank you ever because we have hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Once again, the channel has grown to heights that I never thought would be possible. Just a reminder again, my target for this year was 5,000. We've now hit double that and we've still got a few weeks left before the end of the season. So thank you all so much for all of your unbelievable support to the channel as always. 10,000 is just absolutely staggering. What the next target is, I don't know. We're just going to hope that we can keep this channel growing and growing and growing over the years to come. And a reminder to all of you guys, if you want to help improve the channel even more, we have just launched ourselves a new membership section of this channel, and our second ever La Liga preview and predictions video has just gone live for members only. So make sure you hit that join button if you do want to get yourselves involved with even more stuff on this channel. And of course, make sure you are subscribed if you are new around here. We've got another round of European predictions coming up for you next week. So make sure you've subscribed and notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any of the amazing content we have got coming up for you over the course of the next few weeks. As for today, though, we are once again here to talk about the Premier League. It is time for Game Week 31. After a midweek round of fixtures, that was my best week of Premier League predictions for ages. We got 7 out of 10 in terms of the correct results. We even got 2 correct scores. So if that's not worth a like on this video, I don't know what is. What I would say, though, coming into this weekend's round of matches, I know I've said it a few times this season, but genuinely, I do believe this is the single hardest round of fixtures we have had so far. I think with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 matches this week, you could make really strong cases for either side to win these matches on near enough every single game. So as always, I'm going to do my absolute best to provide you with the best possible previews for these matches. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. The opening game of the weekend is the lunchtime kickoff. It is Everton taking on Arsenal. Now, Everton failed to stop Liverpool's title charge in the midweek fixture in the Merseyside derby. And now, ironically, they have the opportunity to near enough guarantee Liverpool's title win by taking points off of Arsenal here. Bizarrely, Arsenal played Fulham in midweek, and it's Fulham that will end up playing Liverpool later on this weekend as well. Obviously, more on that prediction later, but we're here to focus on this one. Obviously, like we just said, Everton losing to Liverpool in the Merseyside derby, and an incredibly controversial Merseyside derby. However, annoyingly, I have to sit here and defend the Liverpool fans on this one because I believe Tarkowski should have been sent off. And as much as I don't like the ruling surrounding the whole Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota offside goal, unfortunately, the rules are quite clear that that is a legitimate goal. So I don't like it. I think it should be offside, but I will never go against what the rules actually currently state. And under the current rules, that goal should stand. So there you go, Liverpool fans. Even as a United fan, I'm going to defend you on that one. As for Arsenal, though, it was a great victory for them. 2-1 in the end. We got that prediction absolutely spot on against Fulham. Bukayo Saka, back from injury, back with a goal. Arsenal are back. They're ready to go on to face Real Madrid after playing Everton this weekend. What's that? Gabriel's out for the season now instead. Ah, you love to see it. You absolutely love to see it. It's just funny seeing Arsenal suffer because they try so hard and it just doesn't quite happen for them. Not only Gabriel, apparently Timber could be missing this weekend as well. And there are still doubts over Ben White and Calafiori. So forget the Real Madrid game. Arsenal might not even have a defence for this game against Everton. But like we say, they're going to have one eye on that Real Madrid game, especially since realistically the title race is now already over. For Everton, they have no fresh concerns coming out of the Merseyside derby. And obviously Tarkowski will be allowed to play after not getting sent off. But the big news for them is that Ndiaye came off the bench against Liverpool. He should be available to start against Arsenal in this one. To be fair, it was a 0-0 draw at the Emirates earlier on this season. Everton are playing very good stuff under David Moyes. Yes, that unbeaten run is gone. But to be honest, I think, like I say, with Arsenal having their defensive injury problems now, with them having one eye on Real Madrid, I think there's a really good chance that Everton could get at least a draw out of this one. So that's what I'm going for. I'm going to start things off with a 1-1 draw between Everton and Arsenal. On to the 3 o'clock kickoffs then. And the first one is yet another big M23 derby. And the reason why I say it's a big one because even though there's 4 places between these two sides, there is an opportunity for Palace to put some real coverage and build some ground and chasing down Brighton. And to be fair, both sides have kind of had their bubbles a bit burst over the last few days. Crystal Palace needed a 92nd minute equaliser to draw with bottom club Southampton. Meanwhile, Brighton got absolutely picked apart by Aston Villa in their midweek game. Although I have to be fair and say that I think the decision to rule out Adingra's equaliser was very, very harsh. To say that was a deliberate handball from Mitoma when it near enough comes off the elbow, shirt sleeve sort of area, I think that's incredibly harsh because the handball has to directly lead to the goal. It doesn't matter if it's an assist. And to me, it looked accidental, but the rule is how it was interpreted. I think it was very harsh. Would that have changed the game? Who knows? But Brighton were well beaten in the end. It still all means, though, that Crystal Palace remain 7 games unbeaten in the Premier League, which is a great run of form for them. And like we say, it means they're just 7 points behind Brighton now, and they have a game in hand as well. So if they beat Brighton and can win that game in hand, they're just 1 point behind their local rivals. For Brighton, it's now 3 games in a row without a win. And Crystal Palace have already won 3-1 at Brighton earlier on this season. It's going to be an interesting one for me. I just think it's going to be Crystal Palace's game to lose. There are no fresh injury concerns for either side. However, on the same breath, Brighton don't have any of their current injured players available to come back for this one. Like I said, I think Crystal Palace should be considered the favourites for this. But if Brighton turn up, we know what they're capable of. I'm, though, going for a 2-0 victory to Crystal Palace. Next up is arguably the biggest game of the entire weekend. It is Ipswich taking on Wolves. And the reason why I say this is arguably the biggest game of the weekend is because this is realistically the last stand in the relegation battle. Ipswich got an incredible victory at Wolves in midweek. However, they simply had to get it because Wolves had already beaten West Ham the night before. So the battle remains a 9-point gap as things stand. And obviously, if Wolves can avoid defeat, keep it at 9 points, or if even worse, Wolves can beat Ipswich, it's a 12-point gap with just 6 games left. And I just don't think that that is realistic. Ipswich simply have to win this game to keep things alive. In terms of the team news, Ipswich were able to avoid the suspension for Liam Delap. He did not pick up a yellow card. He is on that 9th yellow card. So if he picks up a 10th yellow at any point before the remainder of this season, he's getting a 2-match ban. So it's a good news for them that he has made it for this fixture. Also, Amari Hutchinson looks like he's recovered from his injury that he sustained over the international break, so he should be available. But, of course, the big news for Wolves is Matthias Cunha is back from suspension. Strand Larsen's done a very good job up front. I'd expect him to stay into the side with Cunha filling in one of the places behind him. And also, Wolves are now unbeaten in their last 4. So I do think Wolves still have to be considered the favourites for this, even though Ipswich have just had a really good victory away at Bournemouth. I think it's going to be a tight one to call, though. Ipswich did win 2-1 in the away fixture at Molineux, so we'll see. I think the way Wolves should approach this is probably just to make sure they don't lose. I think if Wolves go out for a win and Ipswich can hit them, that could be a real problem for them. So I think Wolves will do enough to stop Ipswich getting the result that they need. I think a draw could be very likely. But like I say, I still think Wolves should be considered the favourites. But I'm going for another 1-1 draw, which then takes us to the 2 sides that were respectively beaten by Ipswich and Wolves in midweek. Yet another pair of fixtures where the sides are playing against the sides they played in midweek. West Ham, who lost to Wolves, take on Bournemouth, who lost to Ipswich. But we have to talk about the away side first here. Bournemouth have now lost 3 home games in a row by a scoreline of 2-1, with Ipswich being the latest in midweek. It also means they now haven't won a single game out of their last 7 without the need of penalty shootouts. It's really been a serious drop-off at the absolute worst point in the season for Bournemouth. As for West Ham, obviously they did lose, which, to be fair, is their 3rd game in a row without a win. But I just think from what I've seen of these 2 sides over the last few weeks, I think West Ham probably have a little bit extra impetus coming into this one. I think they should definitely be considered the early favourites, especially given the fact that they haven't lost any of their last 8 matches against Bournemouth in all competitions, drawing 1-1 away at Bournemouth earlier on this season and beating them 1-0 at home last season as well. Furthermore, West Ham are starting to get some of their injured players back again as well. The big news for them is that Fulkrug was able to come on in late on against Wolves. Whether or not he'll be able to start this game remains to be seen, but having him back as another striker option is massive for West Ham's prospects, and it looks like Kudus could be available for this one as well. As for Bournemouth, the question marks remain around Justin Kluivert. He, of course, missed the defeat to Ipswich, a massive, massive loss for them, and I think as things stand, he's still a big doubt for this one following his injury towards the end of the Manchester City FA Cup game. To be fair, I still obviously think Bournemouth are capable of producing a result here. It's just what I said, their form is just so poor over the last few weeks. For me, I simply have to go for West Ham in this one. So I'm going for a 2-1 victory to West Ham. But, like I say, Bournemouth turn up, we know they can get the victory. Now it gets even more difficult because it's Aston Villa in 7th place taking on Nottingham Forest in 3rd. It's a battle of two sides with UCL on the mind, Champions League on the mind. Aston Villa, of course, in Champions League action against Paris Saint-Germain in a few days' time. Nottingham Forest currently occupying the Champions League places in 3rd after their victory over Manchester United. And obviously, both sides are already former European Cup winners as well. So a lot of Champions League on the mind for both of these clubs at the moment. As things stand, Aston Villa have won their last 7 games in a row in all competitions, absolutely demolishing Brighton in the end with that 3-0 victory. Although, to be fair, Nottingham Forest are on a 6-game unbeaten run themselves following that 1-0 victory over Manchester United and hold a 6-point gap to 4th place side Chelsea at the moment, which is a great position for them to be in. But we know that Villa could bolster their chances of qualifying for the Champions League this season with a victory here. Will their minds be set on that Paris Saint-Germain game? We shall see. But they've got so many players in a lot of good form at the moment. Obviously, all of the loanees scoring in that midweek game against Brighton, Rashford, Asensio and Marlon. How many of them will start this game? Is it more likely that they play in the Champions League game and they play the likes of Watkins, Rodgers, Ramsey, Bailey, etc. in the Premier League game, because you then play the more players with European experience in Europe? Remains to be seen. What we do know is that Nottingham Forest have a serious concern at fullback. Ola Aina went off injured against Manchester United. He looks set to miss this game, but not only that, Alex Moreno, who replaced him in the Manchester United game, cannot play against his parent club. He's on loan from Aston Villa, which means that the likely scenario is Nico Williams goes to right back and Harry Toffolo has to come in at left back for Nottingham Forest. And I do think that could be an area that Aston Villa end up exploiting. Yes, Nottingham Forest do have the best defensive record in the league at the moment in terms of clean sheets, but I do think that the way Aston Villa are playing at the moment, I think they are the side to watch this weekend. Forest did win the reverse fixture 2-1, but I'm going for Aston Villa to make it 8 wins in a row here. I'm going for 3-1 to Aston Villa. That then takes us on to Sunday, which starts off with 3 early kickoffs and 1 later on. The first game we'll talk about is Brentford taking on Chelsea. Brentford's amazing away run of form finally came to an end at St James's Park in midweek, but what they'll be hoping is exactly what happened when they finally lost at home happens when they finally lost away, which was when they lost at home, they then went on this incredible away run without doing anything at home. Now that they've lost away from home, they'll hope that they can start winning at home again, because it's now 8 games without a win at home in all competitions, which is an incredibly poor run of form for them. As for Chelsea, it was another victory for them last night in a very cagey London derby against Tottenham. Again, a few bits of controversy around it, although I think the referee got every single decision right. We'll obviously talk about the Tottenham perspective when we get to that prediction. But what is crucial for both sides is that neither of them had any injury concerns coming out of either of their respective matches over the last couple of nights, which is great. And obviously for Chelsea, Cole Palmer did end up playing last night, got man of the match, brilliant assist for Enzo Fernandez's goal as well. In terms of the head-to-head guide, though, it is massively in favour of Chelsea when it comes to fixtures at the G-Tech Arena. They actually haven't lost to Brentford away from home since Brentford got promoted to the Premier League, and Brentford only have 1 point so far at home against Chelsea. In terms of the team news, furthermore, it has to be noted that Chelsea are, of course, in European action against Legia Warsaw in the Europa Conference League on Thursday night. However, I think it's more likely that they rotate players for that game rather than rotating players for this game. Again, I think you can make really strong arguments one way or another as to who could win this match. But with Brentford's recent home form, with Chelsea's record at Brentford, I think Chelsea have to be considered the favourites here. So I'm going for a 2-1 victory to Chelsea. Whilst that game is going on, Fulham will be taking on Liverpool at Craven Cottage. And it's now just 1 win and 3 defeats for Fulham in their last 4 matches, which is really not good for them. As for Liverpool, it is now 26 Premier League games unbeaten with that controversial Merseyside derby victory over Everton. Although I would say, I think it was still another very lacklustre performance from Liverpool. And the best defender in Premier League history got rinsed by Beto twice. And if Beto was actually on it, he would have been onside. It was only offside by half a yard anyway. And then the second one, he simply had to score and miss. But, you know, Van Dijk, he's so good. Got skinned by Beto twice. Anyway, I had to have one dig at Liverpool. I had to, after I defended them so much in the earlier prediction. Anyway, they are now in a very, very strong position in terms of winning this Premier League title. And a victory against Fulham here would, again, in my opinion, all but secure their position as league winners, especially if Everton take points off Arsenal, as I've already predicted. In terms of the team news, it looks like Curtis Jones will probably have to fill in at right back once again, with the injuries to Trent, to Gomez, and to Connor Bradley. As for Fulham, no fresh injury concerns coming out of their game against Arsenal. But again, it's what we were saying earlier. They've kind of dropped off at the exact wrong moment. It's like what we were saying against Bournemouth, and they're really going to have to pick it up if they're going to stand any chance of qualifying for Europe next season. For me, with nothing else on the line, I think Liverpool have to be considered the favourites to win every single game for the remainder of this season. So that is where I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Liverpool. I'm not going to give them the clean sheet. Alisson is still likely to miss this game through his concussion, but we shall see. Like I say, Fulham, they are capable, but their recent form isn't great. So I'm going for Liverpool to take it once again. The final early kickoff on Sunday sees Tottenham taking on Southampton. As we said, Tottenham are going to be feeling a little bit hard done by after what happened last night in the London derby against Chelsea. But unfortunately, as long as those VAR decisions took, they made the right decisions. The offside was correct. The foul was correct. And I don't care if Ange wants to moan and whinge about these decisions not going in their favour. If those decisions would have been allowed to stand and there was proof that the goal shouldn't have stood, that's more of a problem. So I know we're trying to work on VAR in this country. We're trying to make it quicker. But I'd rather they still got the right decisions. So for me, I don't think Tottenham can really complain too much. For Southampton, they got a point. They actually got a point. They managed to get a draw against Crystal Palace. And if it wasn't for that last-minute equaliser, they would have ended up getting all 3. And I have to feel sorry for them because Aaron Ramsdale had a really good game there. And I think, unfortunately for him, he has to take a little bit of the blame for the goal that that Southampton ended up conceding to Palace. But a point on the board is massive for them. But whether or not it's going to be enough for them to now suddenly go, well, hey, we got a point against Palace, let's go to Spurs and get a victory, remains to be seen, especially given the fact that Flynn Dowes is now suspended. He picked up his 10th yellow card of the season, so he's been given a 2-match ban. Not only that, Ogachukwu on loan from Chelsea and Onuachu both went off with injuries in the second half as well. So likelihood is neither of them will be available to play in this one for Spurs. No fresh concerns from last night other than that they're absolutely raging for seemingly no reason, in my opinion. It's an opportunity for them to move above Manchester United ahead of the Manchester derby as well. And they won 5-0 at Southampton earlier on this season in the match that saw Russell Martin lose his job at the end of it. For me, Spurs simply have to win this one. So for me, I'm going for a 3-1 victory to Spurs. What I would say is that if Wolves beat Ipswich on Saturday and Southampton lose to Spurs, Southampton are relegated. So there is a chance that Southampton end up going down this weekend. So watch this space. Then it's time for the main event. It is the Manchester derby in the late kickoff on Sunday. Manchester United taking on Manchester City. And for United, their unbeaten run came to an end, as predicted, against Nottingham Forest in midweek. Despite actually controlling the vast majority of the match, one big counter-attack from Nottingham Forest from Anthony Elanga was enough to see off United. For City, it's back-to-back victories after a 2-0 result against Leicester. Although even Pep said he wasn't happy with the overall performance. He was disappointed it didn't end up being more. And obviously the great news for them is that Oscar Bob made his first appearance of the season following his horrific injury in the summer, so that was good for them. For United, no fresh injury concerns after the game against Forest, and potential that Kobbie Mainoo could be back in the squad for this one. To be honest, I just don't really know where to go with this, because I think we all sort of know how this game's going to play out. City are going to be the side that are dominant. United are going to sit in their 5-back, try and hit them on counters like they did at the Etihad earlier on in the season. The problem is, it was Ahmad who did all the heroics in those last few minutes at the Etihad, and Ahmad is still going to be out. So can we actually rely on the likes of Garnacho and Højlund to make the difference on the break against City here? I just don't know. I just think this is one of them games where City could blow us away, we could nick it on the counter, or it could even be as boring as a 0-0 draw. Ultimately, I think United's full focus has to be on the game against Lyon in midweek. They're not going to get into Europe from the Premier League this season. They can qualify for the Champions League by beating Lyon on Thursday. So surely that is where the focus is going to be. But it's still a Manchester derby. There's still going to be some feistiness about it. I can't split them. In my head, City should be considered the strong favourites for this. But I'm never going to predict United to actually lose to City when I think there is a chance that we could get something. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw, but we'll end up seeing. And then finally, it's the Monday Night Football. Leicester City taking on Newcastle United. Leicester made it 8 defeats in a row with that 2-0 defeat to City, and also made it 6 games in a row without scoring a single goal. Absolutely horrendous for them as things stand. For Newcastle, it was 3 wins in a row with that victory over Brentford to add to their Carabao Cup success before the international break. There are some slight fitness concerns for them though. Isak and Kieran Trippier both had to go off with some slight issues towards the end of the Brentford game, but I would expect both of them to make it for this one. No fresh concerns for Leicester, other than the fact that they simply cannot score a goal. In my opinion, this is Newcastle's game to lose. They won the reverse fixture. They should definitely be winning this fixture as well. I'm going to round off today's predictions with a 2-0 victory to Newcastle. And that is going to be it. As always, a massive thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let me know anything you think I've missed regarding any of these fixtures. And once again, thank you so much for 10,000 subscribers. Don't forget, if you are new and you want to check out my La Liga predictions, to hit that join button at the bottom of your screen. Thank you very much for watching once again. I'll see you very soon.